Thanks, Matt. Yeah, I'm going to be brief. I'll give a real short introduction. My name is Jesse Ferguson. I'm an IT administrator in the higher education field. I had my awakening in 2013, just before the Firearm Safety Act was passed. Started getting involved. And this year I became really involved. Excuse me. As Matt said, I spent a lot of time in the House building, in the Senate building in Annapolis, in committee hearings, when we could still go and see other people and not stay 6 feet away from them and wear a mask. And I'm a member of a gun club over here on the Eastern Shore. I run the newsletter. And because of that, I try and really stay on top of what's going on as far as pending legislation, both on the state level and federal level. So let me do this real quick. You guys are probably already aware. You guys all seem pretty savvy. There we go. So I'm gonna share my screen. Just go over a couple of things real quick. So you guys are all probably aware that the legislative session in Maryland was shut down early because of COVID-19. Basically, the only bills that squeak through that are gun related are the ones that are at the top here that have the status sent to governor. Everything else got scrapped. May probably come back, and hopefully not during this special session they're talking about having in May. But we'll probably see this stuff come back next year because we keep seeing it come back every year. So the one bill that's particularly worrisome is the one denoted here. So this is a MSI, and Michael Deese actually posted this link. MSI is a great group. MSI's representatives are always in Annapolis during the legislative session, lobbying against anti-2A bills. They're there for us. They're a great group. If you want to support them by joining them or donating money, I would highly recommend it. So HB4 and the cross-filed bill, SB 208, is basically the long gun secondary transfer bill. Basically, they just want to make it so that you have to go through a background check if you want to sell a long gun to a friend, a neighbor, things like that. So it remains to be seen whether this is actually going to make it into law. It probably will. Hopefully the governor will veto it, but with the Democratic majority in the state House, they would easily override the veto. The other bills that were pretty bad were the ghost gun bill, the untraceable firearms bill. They were concerned about homemade firearms, 80% firearms, and 3D printed firearms. That got scrapped for the time being. Let me move this down real quick so I can see my. One of the things I got pretty good at this year was navigating the General Assembly website, being able to find where this stuff is, how the committee hearings are laid out, the buildings that they're in, timing for this stuff, where to find the text for the bills as they go through their various amendments and stuff. So this is the history. This is the page for HB for the long gun background check bill.
Hey, Jesse.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Tim. God bless you, brother. I may need your help if you don't mind. So I had the old system wired tight, but I have really struggled with this new system this session, trying to figure things out. So from an education perspective, Matt, I think one of the first topics that we might want to try to Zoom and just get, because then it feeds into writing and everything else, is maybe have Jesse do a quick tutorial on how to navigate. I finally figured out most of it, but this is not a user-friendly system as compared to the last one wasn't, but you could sort through it. This is counterintuitive.
Yeah, Tim, and that same thing has crossed my mind. I've been thinking about putting together just a little tutorial knowledge transfer sort of thing about using the MGA website, because it's not user-friendly. It's a mess.
Right, we could do it. We could do an education session here on Zoom. Before we commit to using Zoom, I've gotten a lot of flack from people in the community because Zoom's gotten a lot of hits lately, with with it being hacked, and 3 software companies that are Chinese ran. One of the moderators on the forum today said he doesn't want to log into this site because he has a friend at NSA that says he shouldn't use it or install it on his computer. If you guys feel the same about that, let me know. We can find a different platform to use. What's your thoughts?
So Matt, I guess I kind of understand you don't want people into your wire, but in the end, I guess I'm an American. I don't care that the Chinese know that I'm a pro Second Amendment guy, and from our own government, NSA is going to. I'm on Fort Meade. That's all I'll say. They have access to everything anyway. And anybody that thinks they're keeping, so I'm not sure I understand the fear, but I guess that's what can anybody articulate the concern that the Chinese knows what you're doing specifically?
DOD has identified that some of the Zoom data has been, as Zoom puts it, mistakenly routed through Chinese systems that the government monitors there.
No, I will share with you guys.
Some user data.
I think it's a good thing, and here's why. Because we can use everything to our advantage. So as an example, I have a concealed carry permit. I've had it for, 6 years now. And the reason I got it, my rationale was the same as a bunch of us got it almost at the same time. And it was the fact that due to my military background, with the OPM breach, you could then find out let me back up. With the Snowden breach, you could tie activity to me and my family through the OPM, and people could buy that. And I made the case, and I was renewed last year. So it just reinforces the fact that the government can't protect my information nor protect me. So I need to be able to protect myself from my own due to the activities I'm involved in.
I agree with that, Tim, and you make it a very good point. Not only do we have the NSA spying, right? Like I already said earlier at the beginning, Chinese have been doing it for a long time, right? All our tech, all our stuff, even our iPhones have been made over there. We don't know what's in it, that they have backdoors, all that kind of stuff to access that information. I work for the government. I also served in the military as well. My data was stolen with OPM's breach. I guess the only risk factor to the Chinese watching these videos and stuff like that is if you're a potential target, because you might have a vulnerable position in which they may be interested in trying to offer you money or blackmailing you to get you to do things for them. And that's about the only real risk that I see.
Okay, that's valid. I guess I could kind of see that. Okay, thanks, Matt.
I mean, I could see. So if you have a sensitive federal job and they have your OPM information, they're going to be able to tie you here and here, and they may, it can be used against you in that regard. So, and Michael Nee sent us some information there. It says Pentagon issues new guidance on Zoom use, right? So when I set this up, and I don't have like an expert IT background, but I ran my own servers in the past. I've built websites, stuff like that. I've ran my agency's website as well as and stuff like that. So when I set this up initially, I blocked third-party apps because there are third-party apps that run off Zoom. I blocked that so that couldn't be used. I made it so you had to register with a legitimate email to validate who you are. You can create an email if you don't want to use your regular email for Zoom, and you don't have to use your whole name. You can use part of your name or use a fictitious last name to kind of protect your identity. Those are kind of things that you need to worry about. As far as me, I don't care. I mean, my DNA is out there from the military. OPM's got everything from me. I used to be a federal law enforcement officer, and so I was having psych evals every year as required for my former agency, and having to go through background checks all the time every year. So I'm out there, and there's no hiding me, and I'm not trying to hide anything because I'm just me. But, for those who want the anonymity, I would suggest creating a fictitious email. Don't use your real email, and using an alternate name or something like that. Real first name, fictitious last name, just to protect yourself. That's my only suggestion.
I don't mind using Zoom. I'm using it for other things. We used it for work for quite a while, and I don't know of another tool that works so well. You've got the paid account, but there are free accounts too. So
I licensed my account.
Right.
Yeah, so I have a license on it. I have 100 seats available with my license. I'm paying for it out of pocket. I think that adds a little bit more security than the free accounts because I get more protections, I guess, with HTTPS. a lot of people that were compromised had open forums, and they didn't block third-party apps. So someone could easily use a third-party app that they've rooted and give it root access to the platform.
Well, another thing that folks were doing were they were creating meetings and not taking the steps that you've taken that require registration. So they would just have a meeting URL out there, like on Facebook or somewhere, and anybody that clicked on that link could join the meeting, and then they could, harass people or prank people, or they called it Zoom bombing.
Zoom bombing.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, one of the other things that Zoom got nailed on, besides sending their data through China, was they were storing recorded videos in Amazon S3 buckets storage, Amazon's web storage service, and there was no protection, no authentication. They were just out there in the public. And I guess the way they save the videos, it's pretty easy to guess the file names or something.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you're recording it and not uploading it to their servers, just keeping it on your local machine, I think that's good.
Well, that's what I've done with this here as well. I disabled the cloud, so nothing is being backed up to Zoom's cloud. I have it recording just to my desktop. If we stream it via Facebook Live, then it's on Facebook servers, which are pretty secure, but still susceptible to be hacking. I mean, for crying out loud, DoD's been hacked, NSA's been hacked. Everybody's been hacked. So, I mean, at some point, it's a kind of a tug of war game here to what you do. But there are things, like I said, that you can do to protect yourself. Create an alternate email that you don't use for regular conversations, and don't use your last name, your real last name. You can just do an initial like I did, and that way you can kind of protect yourself that way. But I've done everything I can, at least on my end. There's other software apps out there. Skype, I don't like Skype. I've used it in the past. It's not reliable at all. And it's still susceptible, right?
Yeah.
Right, Jesse?
Yeah, it is. Same, yeah. Let me get through
Go ahead.
A little bit more on the legislative, because I got to run soon. But so the session was shut down early. There was a hue and cry on Facebook, rightly so, about how the legislators were doing some, violating the Open Meetings Act and other stuff like that. This particular bill, HB 4, did go through the right process. A lot of people were upset and thought maybe this one had been, gotten as far as it had gotten without following the proper procedures. This one did have public testimony in both the House committee and the Senate committee. I was there for both of those committee hearings. So this one went through the proper channels. One of the bills that didn't is this one, and I don't know if a lot of people have heard about this one. I made a link. So in the post in the AA county group, there's a post about this meeting. I've been adding links and stuff to that post, and one of the links is this op-ed. So this op-ed is actually in the Baltimore Sun, but they've got a paywall. But Mike Griffith actually put the entire content of the op-ed here, and it talks about this bill, 1028, which is a budget bill, and some of the changes they're trying to make to the process. So this one did not go through the proper channels. This one did not have public testimony during one of the committee hearings. It was the middle of March, right when we were starting to see things start to fall apart from the virus. And
now this one, I'm confident the Republicans will take this one to court. Now, in the end, it's almost meaningless because, we're not going to see a Republican governor for quite a while because this one destroyed the bench for running for governor last election. But this bill is much like his executive order power in Section 24 of the Maryland Constitution. I was alarmed by my executive order has force of law because executive orders are not law. Only legislation can make law. When I looked it up, it basically goes back to the early 70s where they did something just like this. In this instance, they're removing power from the governor like they did a couple years ago with Frosh and the ability to sue the president. But this was the opposite, where they empowered their governor because they hadn't seen a Republican. They were confident they weren't going to see a Republican one in quite a while. These these ones are the ones that really have a lot of impact. And whoever controls the purse, and that's why it's split up amongst the separation of powers, because whoever controls it in totality is king. In this case, it shifts it all to the Democratic legislation.
Yeah.
Good catch, Jesse.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So we already talked about Virginia. Truth About Guns had a good article talking about everything. Basically, Virginia became very much like Maryland overnight with their universal background check laws, the red flag, and purchase limits. I don't know if they're going to have a concept of a collector status like Maryland does that gets you past that purchase limit. But sad news for Virginia. Hopefully all this stuff will be taken to court. I'm confident it will. We talked about, Doug talked about one of the Supreme Court cases. I just ran across this article on bearing arms. It's another 2A case the Supreme Court is looking at. The big one everybody's got their eyes on is the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, because this one could change the scrutiny that's used, potentially could change the scrutiny that's used for Second Amendment cases to make them more dealt with like a First Amendment case. This one, Rodriguez versus San Jose, has potential to strike down red flag laws. So this is another one that's kind of worth watching. It hasn't been granted cert. It's just being looked at. So there's a few in the pipeline. They're trying to pick stronger cases, I think. So I'm not sure about the strength of this particular case, but it's a good sign that they're at least looking at more of these Second Amendment cases. On the federal level, I think everybody's heard about House Bill 5717, which is
5917.
Was it 59? No, there's the guy from Georgia, not
Yeah, I think there's a 57 as well.
Yeah, that one is like an assault weapons ban on steroids. This one is so there's basically, this would allow the ATF to more easily create a registry, like a genuine registry. There's a lot of misconceptions about, when you purchase a firearm, is it registered to you? Is there a registry? The way the ATF works, they can start at the manufacturer with the serial number and track things down to the point of purchase where the transfer was occurred, and then find out who it was transferred to. So it's not exactly a registry. It can be sort of used as a registry, I guess. They can't just type your name in, find out all the stuff that you own. But this bill and its Senate counterpart would definitely make that a lot easier. And that's basically it. But I'm going to add something on the subject of registries. So one of the bills that Maryland was looking at was would require everybody to register their assault weapons. That bill thankfully died, but people were concerned about it, rightfully so, and they began trying to find out what does the state know that I own. And the Maryland State Police has a process that you can follow to request information. Quite a few people went through the process, requested the information on the registered regulated firearms that are associated with your name, and you would have to drive up to Pikesville. I did this, pay 25 cents a sheet for the printouts, and you would get to see what the state thinks you own. And their record keeping is pretty atrocious. I had quite a few pieces of paper in there that they were transfers for a regulated firearm, but there was no manufacturer, no caliber, no model, just a regulated firearm in my name. And it also shows that the state does have a database, a registry of all this stuff.
Yeah,
Hey,
which
Jeff.
they're not supposed to, right? It's unlawful for them to keep a digital registry.
It's unlawful for the feds to do it. There's some room for the states to do it.
So, so I've been a red flag nut, and Matt, I would love to walk through our bill and teach everybody on it, because it's not an anti-Second Amendment bill. It's just an unconstitutional bill. It removes, anyway, I don't want to go into that.
Yeah.
in looking that up, Article 17 in the Maryland Constitution, I think, applies in this instance. I'm interested to see what you guys think. That retrospective laws, i.e. laws that try to go backwards, punishing acts committed before the existence of such laws, i.e. you allowed me to buy this before, and now you're telling me I can't have it unless I do A, Y, X through Z. And by them only declared criminal, are oppressive, unjust, and incompatible with liberty. Wherefore, no ex post facto law ought to be made, nor any retrospective oath or restriction be imposed or required. That's in today's Constitution, the state of Maryland. It's Article 17. I'd be curious if you guys want to look at it and maybe post on the page what your thoughts are. I think it applies to a lot of the laws that they're trying to pass, especially that one.
Sorry, all silence here, huh? Because we're all thinking about it. Definitely share it on the page, Tim, and make that available to everybody else. If you're interested as well, like I was telling Scott, I can make you a moderator of the page. That doesn't mean that your job's to moderate it. It's just so that you can post stuff as the page. If you're okay with that, I can do that with you as well, Jesse and Tim. Thank you. And Michael Neese, if you want to have moderator access and share information and teach as a page, I'm more than welcome to do that. I'm not trying to control it. I don't think anybody's in charge. Like I said at the first meeting when you were there, Michael and Jesse and Nelson, that I'm not in charge. I'm just some guy that's trying to do something who wants to make things better. I'm not in charge. We're all in this together.
I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, brother.
Some guy. It only takes one some guy.
Well, that's true. And, for a long time, I haven't. And I used to be involved in it, back in the day growing up. My dad and my uncles, they all went to federal prison fighting against the IRS. And they were all set up and were taken down and knocked out because they were doing the same thing. They were fighting against the IRS on constitutional measures and ended up in federal prison because of my grandfather. My dad's dad was killed in a trucking accident. Somebody sabotaged his truck rig, and he and two other men were fighting against the IRS, and they were about a week away from going to Washington State Supreme Court to have a ruling on the IRS, unconstitutional ruling. And my grandfather with another man died, and the other man disappeared. He's never been seen to this day. And so the case was dismissed since there was no more complainants. And it took a congressman for the state of Alaska after 15 years after the accident to get a copy of the state's police report, and it was heavily redacted. But my dad has shared that with me. And that group, if you ever look it up, I have the business card somewhere. I can show it to you. My grandfather had. It's called IRS Checkmate. And I've been in it. I've seen people come and go. I mean, I've seen a whole lot of people come and go. And I've seen the extremes and on both ends of it. And I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm in the middle, just like straight down. I want to follow Jesus's footsteps. And he's the line that I'm on, and that's the line that I'm walking. It's neither, you know what I mean by that, because I think there's safety in being correct and using him as my model as we pursue freedom and following that and following that same.
Here's the power of one guy doing what you're doing, Michael, and Jesse, your research. You guys all remember NAFTA. Initially, NAFTA was going to create literally a highway from Mexico to Canada with the movement of goods between those two, or from those two, with stops along. They were going to take this let's say 8-lane highway, and they're going to make it federal and independent of the U.S. and it would have stops. That was the business economic. Trucks would stop here and people could build. So one guy dug into it like Jesse's doing, and he found a caveat that if anybody opposed it along the route, the whole thing collapsed. It had to be approved. So we went to 5 small Texas towns with less than 2,500 people to them, and he pitched this concept, and they all made city ordinances that said we do not support this nor want it. And NAFTA folded and turned into just a trade agreement, not the tearing in half of America. That's the power of one guy with education. There's 2 guys here right now that are stepped up, and we, the rest of us, will join. That's the power.
Thank you, Tim.
Very good, guys. How many people in the various groups know somebody that belongs to a private range, private gun range, or a private gun club? Okay. That is an asset for us to reach out to the female population. I belong to 12th Precinct, and I'm an instructor. I'm an NRA instructor. I'm a state of Maryland instructor, HQL in Cary and Ware. Every one of my students, I take down and give them a tour of the range. And every one that I've taken down there has joined. The majority of them have been women. I think if we can find some folks to reach out to, like Associated Gun Clubs of Baltimore and the instructors, I'll try to reach out to NRA and get a list of Maryland instructors. But USCCA has instructors for them. And I don't know of any other insurance groups. I know USCCA is one that has instructors. If you know of any, reach out to them, to their instructors, and maybe we can broaden this stuff for more counties in the state and get those ladies behind us. Women have a powerful voice when they stand up. People look at them. I mean, they don't want to look at my scraggly old face. A woman stands up. I don't care if she's out there. She's using, I hate to say it, she's using sex appeal and it sells. You know, they will get up there and they will get in front of somebody, and, you know, a lot of guys are not listening to what they're saying, but yep, she's good looking, boom, you know, and go with it. We need to really incorporate them into what we're doing. And a big asset for it is like Jesse, I heard you mention Worth a Shot. We need to recruit Donna Worthy in here. She's the owner up there at Worth a Shot. She does a lot of female-only classes up there, and she has a good following. If we can get her, she's an Anne Arundel County girl. I think she lives down here in the Mayo Peninsula somewhere down by me, because I've seen her vehicle down here, if she's still down here. But any gun club, private range that you know, we need to recruit these people. Go to the top management in there and say, hey, this is what we got. This is what we need to do. I don't know about the public ranges up north. I only know of two of them. One is on Target up outside of Fort Meade, which is in Anne Arundel County. The other's in PG County, Maryland Small Arms, and I think it's Fred's down in Calvert County. No, that's Charles County. I'm sorry, Charles County. But
yeah, Michael, Select Fire up in Glen Burnie's been sold, and the new owner has turned it around. I haven't been in there yet, but I've got a lot of friends who are just, you know, speaking highly of it. But Michael, listening to you,
or something.
Yeah, Michael, speaking to you, it occurs to me as we coalesce, and this only works when we coalesce, as we can stay focused on this issue, what we could do or consider is going out from a civil rights perspective, because ultimately, I always take the Second Amendment into the civil rights arena for both African-American community as well as women. But I guess my point is we could go and find where there's a woman's heavy issue and say, hey, listen, we'll support you if you'll support us. And the goal is to expand their support base as well as ours at the same time. So again, that's finicky, because that's asking all the members to consider supporting something, and there's a little risk to there for our internal organization. But if we look at it from a holistic perspective, you know, is this a do or die for you? If you know, I don't know, whatever it is you want. A cleaner bay is an example. You know, I think we all want that. Do we want to tax the crap out of farmers till they can't feed us anymore? No. But if we could support them and they realize that, hey, listen, I'll support you if you support our right to protect ourselves in order to keep it, you know, whatever it is. But there's that negotiating is something else we can do to seek out the females like Michael's talking about. Let's ping our members and find out what's their second biggest area and see if there's a common ground there, and then go into that area and see if we can start finding that commonality.
Yeah, I agree. I like that idea. I'm throwing it out here. I'm not politically correct by any stretch of the imagination on things. Believe me, never have been, probably never will be at this stage in the game. But yeah, I look at a demographic that is out there that is just looking, they're like that dry sponge and where the eyedropper dripping water into it, they're absorbing it, and they can be a big asset. I know the Associated Gun Clubs of Baltimore, from what I understand, has a lot of different associated groups, and I think that's a big target for us to go after and make some inroads in and see what they do.
Can I suggest extending that just a little further and targeting the counties where those kind of groups are the smallest, where maybe it's PG or Montgomery, where they already feel like they have a small voice to begin with, and targeting those areas, because if they understand that now they've got support elsewhere, they might get a little louder within their own counties.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to target the friendly clubs that you already know about. I mean, Baltimore, that would definitely be a target issue, but I'm thinking Montgomery and PG, where we have the smallest voice, but that's the biggest voting population within Maryland. Let's try to target towards that and build up a voice where it doesn't currently exist, except in small numbers.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. It's interesting that you say that, because between that and PG County, those areas are the two major swing counties for this whole legislative body.
Yeah.
And that's where we need to target as well, not just our own counties, but like you said, to get into Baltimore. I know there's lots of people from Baltimore that are going up to gun clubs, Guntree, or whatever. I joined Guntree not too long ago, and then it couldn't go back because it got closed down. But they have people from all over coming there. I don't know, unfortunately, the management at Guntree and everything like that. They don't know me, and I'm just some guy on Facebook, like I think you were saying, Tim, or Scott was maybe saying, with only 1,100 people in my group. And so I'm not going to be taken seriously at this point. But we each know somebody, like you do, Michael, Mattia. You know somebody, and Michael Nation, you know somebody. We all know somebody. We can reach out to those people and get them involved and get them a part of it. That's really where we're at. So I guess both Michaels, would you guys be interested in doing our community outreach and kind of running that program for the group?
I was thinking more along the research end, but okay.
Well, if you're more interested in research, that's fine. I don't want you to feel like you're obligated to do one or the other, but
it's just one of the things I kind of do for feds already. So
why don't we just
one of the things I'm good at?
We'll keep you in the research lane, and Jesse can be in the research lane. What about you, Michael Mattia? Do you want to head up the community outreach and reach out to these women folk and these clubs who've been here?
Yeah, I'll do that.
You know a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know a lot of people, and then feel free to reach out to people in our community, in our group out of Arundel County, and ask them, to come and join up. Who wants to be involved in community outreach, and we can create subgroups for you here on Zoom where you can run it and get people going.
Well, Matt, you said something critical. So there are Second Amendment Democrats. I have found them in my own district. Now, the challenge is when you start talking guns, we're coming at it from usually a political perspective. Matt, you said something that was ultimately critical earlier. The center of American politics is, we keep talking about left and right, extremist this, extremist that. And as an example, drives me nuts when people call Hogan the center, because he's a compromiser. Compromising is an activity, not a location. So you have to know the location in order to compromise. The problem with politics today, and I think it's the safe spot to speak from, is the Constitution. It is the center. If you work from that, I am not the right. I'm a constitutionalist. I'm a centrist. And I think I have found, as I've matured my message over the years, is you talk to a Democrat on a gun issue and you come at it from that perspective, and it makes it a safer topic, and you can their walls are not going to go up as high right away. Now, of course, everybody interprets the Constitution or listens to, activist judges. But in the end, if we come at it from we all decide that this is the common ground, this is what we work from, this is why we message that. It's not a right issue at all. It's a central issue. It's a civil rights issue. It's this, this, and this. And that tends to really help from Michael to an outreach perspective.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good point. We push that, especially in some of the other counties. PG County, I know if any of y'all have been over to Maryland Small Arms, the demographic that goes in there is not really represented in any of these gun groups that you see.
Right. That's a great point.
And that's something we need to reach out. I'll reach out to them. I used to take students over there for quite a while. So I'll reach out to them and see what we can pull from them and see what they got.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And I think that's one thing we need to start focusing on more. And I've tried to do it. And I can't do it by myself, but we get a lot of, conservative-based posts in our Arundel County group, which chases off the other voice, right? Our voice needs to be constitutional voice and not right or left. And in the beginning, when we got this started off, we did have several active people in the group that were Democrats, but were Second Amendment supporters, and they've since kind of disappeared from posting. I think they're still members of the group. I don't know anymore.
We got to find them.
We need them because they're the voice that we need to get tapped into as well. And look, they're better at organizing, right? So and getting together. So I could use everyone's help, to kind of steer the group and the focus back towards the Constitution and away from the parties, and do that. I can't do it myself. I'm trying to manage it. I'll be done with school here in a few weeks, be graduated, and then I'll be on break for a long time. I don't know when I'll be going back, or I'll be able to go back and get a PhD. I don't know at this point. But right now, my main focus is turning towards the Constitution and really trying to focus on that and reuniting myself with the Lord. So he's always been there. He hasn't been on the back burner for me at all. He's always part of it. But I feel like he is moving me back towards being more spiritually focused and constitutionally focused, and that I am where I need to be as a person and individual to be able to go out to the community and minister to people, both on the Constitution and both His words. So, and if you're not spiritual and you're atheist, please don't. I don't want you to feel like you're being shunned out. Okay, we all have a higher power, even if we don't call them by a certain name or her by a certain name. We're all in this together, wherever you're at.
Matt, something that both Tim and Michael had said sparked a memory. If anyone's on Twitter and they've seen Scott Pressler, his Twitter handle is The Persistence. He's a young, hippie-looking gay kid, but he's an adamant constitutionalist, Trump supporter, and right before Elijah Cummings passed away, he made a couple of trips to Baltimore and just cleaned up trash. That's all he did. We just went alleyway to alleyway, cleaning up trash, and he brought people from all over the state to do it. He used that as a sidebar issue to say, hey, look, we're actually going to put our boots on the ground. We're going to clean things up. But while we're here, what are your opinions? And he got people in the neighborhood who were lifelong Democrats to change their mind about how they viewed Republicans. Again, it's not left or right. It was just saying, hey, look, I'm a person just like you. And what Tim and what Michael were both saying touched on that, in that we could use sidebar issues to say, okay, you might politically be against the Second Amendment because you've been told to. But what happens if this happens? What happens if it's your family member? You just use a sidebar issue to kind of gently bring them in and say, okay, now let's have a real conversation because I'm not your enemy. I see things the way you do, in that I want to protect my family. I want to protect those around me, because I want to have a larger group that I'm responsible for. How do we do that in a responsible way? So you go to the outreach groups through the gun clubs, but also go to outreach through other weans, through religious interaction. Why not? Use the sidebar issues to help bring it into the fold and say, look, we're not your enemy.
Right, and it's interesting you say that because, in studying developmental psychology, part of it that we covered was social psychology. And in social psychology, the whole group mentality, when we break people down into groups, it's us versus them mentality. You see it in sports arenas, you see it in political parties, you see it in religious groups, right? And so when you do that and you break people down, you're separating people and dividing people. And as long as we can continue to have groups that divide us, we're going to stay divided, period. Yeah. And it may even seem like it's necessary. Like, okay, this is my team I'm rooting for. This is your team you're rooting for. Well, this is the same mentality that's happened in society, and it was intentionally done, I believe, to be able to sabotage people, because it's been shown that when you're in a group mentality, you will not, and you have herd mentality, and you will bring people back in line, and you'll use what's called operant conditioning, right, which is you shame them or punish them for deviating outside the group norms, and that's really hard to overcome. And the only way that you can overcome that and break down those barriers is when you find a common ground. And the Constitution has to be it. And that has to be where we all meet. And then we can become united. Then we become a group. Now we're not divided anymore. Now we have differences of opinions, but we're in a group. And when we're in a group, we can discuss those differences. And it's okay to think differently. But when we have a group versus a group, everybody aligns to their ideologies that most closely fits, and they attack the other viciously. So we have to break down the group first and foremost and get everybody involved, male, female, black, white, everybody. So it's very good. Nelson, you look like you want to say something, brother. Come on, speak up, jump in there.
I'm getting a lot of information and soaking it all in. So,
well, good. We want you involved. What would you like to do? You want to get involved in community engagement? Do you want to write letters? Do you want to?
Yeah, I can do some letters. I mean, I'll get involved and send some letters out. I mean, like I said, I've been emailing representatives on a regular basis, but you know how that goes. Most of that stuff is automated anyway, so they're, and half of them now have come back saying, oh, they're out of the office and due to the virus and this and that stuff. So, there's automated regens come back at you. So,
hey, from a letter writing perspective, I know Rick Forgo fairly well through the campaigns over the last couple of years. He's the senior editor at the Gazette. They are hurting tremendously for people to write to them. Nobody reads it anymore, so it's a double-edged sword. But I try to write to him twice a month. They'll only publish you once a month, but I try to get published on a local issue every month. So that might be something we want to consider. That and the different patches, the little local papers where we just write an op-ed or just it's 300 words or less. Pick a topic. We'll talk about self-defense, civil rights. Women, men, whatever, African Americans, but we could maybe consider that. The letter writing doesn't necessarily have to be just to the legislator.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, Michael.
Merry Christmas.
Michael, I've lived on this earth a long time, and I thought I'd seen it all, and I have not. God bless you, brother. Matt, I think that does me. I'm not focusing after that.
Oh, that's funny. I'm trying to unmute Michael. He's muted himself. I can't unmute him for some reason. Well, I appreciate everybody's input and your guidance and your direction. I definitely think we've made some good groundwork, even though we're a small few. It only takes a small few to do a lot. and to accomplish a lot, like you were saying, Tim, earlier, it just takes one person, and we got more than one person involved. So if we can affect at least 2 other people every day, we can grow this out like wildfire, and we can sweep them. And yes, Virginia did a great show of arms. Everybody's showing up, and they were peaceful, thankfully. I think it speaks even volumes when we can just get a bunch of people on board of different demographics of different types without even having to show up with arms at our state capitol, just being a united voice, united front. And, we have more people that are Second Amendment supporters that are currently involved than we do Moms Demand Action. I've looked at their group numbers that they have for Maryland, and we're like quadruple their size, but they're louder than us and they're more organized than us. And so they appear a lot bigger than we are and more support. We don't show up. We don't.
Well, that's because they're all married to dudes in Severna Park and they're stay-at-home moms. We all have to work and have jobs. That's an inherent weakness in our position, is that we fund these people to have time to do what they do. But your point is very valid, that there's probably 30 in the whole state that do all the work, and they get it done because they're there. So we have to identify those people on our side that can do that. I mean, I'm very active. Jesse, you'll probably hardly ever see me in Annapolis just because I got to work. But I talk to my local delegates. I hunt them down. I make sure that, hey, look, they're going to the market today. I'll be in the market. I'll because that's the way our founding fathers meant it to be, the power at the lowest level. So when you were out and about, you could speak to them. I speak to them. I do the letter writing and everything as well. But we need to identify the people that have the time. And I don't know, maybe as a group, if we can grow, we can even throw money into a pot to pay people to take a day off, that are motivated, well-spoken, and could go down there and lobby on behalf of us as a community, without being a lobbyist. So just those are things that we can try to counter the moms. Or we go find their husbands and we get them on our side.
Split up those marriages, right?
Well, we don't have to split them up. We just got to get the man to assert himself.
I think if they're at the point where they're at now, that's probably never going to happen. It's going to take a crisis for them to finally step up. And unfortunately, it takes a crisis for people to get motivated anymore today. And, while suffering is sufferable, people choose suffering over freeing themselves. So it's still sufferable, but it's getting to a point it may not be in a few more weeks if we continue down this road with COVID-19. But yeah, let's get together. Let's get to work. And, if you don't have moderator access, I sent it out to some of you already on Facebook, then do a little posting. So you're welcome to post as yourself, welcome to post as the page to bring up stuff you're doing. Tim, if you want to, hit people up on there for the Bible study, if people are interested in coming to it, that's great. The weekly meeting I'm holding is more of a social lounge. We can talk about all kinds of issues. There's no specific topic or guidance from it, but it's to just bring people together to keep them talking and get more people organized. So share it and share alike, and wherever you guys can. I appreciate it. Well, that's it for me.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything else? Jesse, I know Scott Anderson, he stepped up to run, legislative, but you're also legislative. I'd like to see you running that for Anne Arundel County as well. I don't think we can have too many people doing any one thing and stuff, whatever you feel you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I already reached out to him via email and just sent him a friend request on Facebook. I want to talk to him some more. So yeah, I'm more than happy to wear more than one hat as well. So that's fine.
Okay, I appreciate it. We definitely need that. And I'll do research and community engagement, which I'm kind of already doing community engagement now with social media and Facebook ads and stuff like that, and research as well. And Michael, you're going to do research, and then Michael, Mattia, you're going to help out with community engagement so we can work on that together and try to reach people. I'm going to set up a few more ads today and this one's just going to specifically target women only, because you can choose what demographics you want it to go to. So I'm going to set up an ad today that targets women, guns, Second Amendment, stuff like that, specifically for women today. Because I've been getting about a 30% respawn rate to my current ads now, mostly male, heavily male.
Matt, do you need a little money, brother?
I'm okay. God's taking care of me.
All right, I don't mind throwing some bucks your way for the ads.
Well, that's fine. You can always set up an ad yourself on that page now that you're a moderator. So if you want to run another ad,
okay,
you can run it. That's for the group. I'll add you as a moderator to the page as well, because we have a group and a page now. And so I'm running the ad from the actual pages. And so you can run it, you can set it up however you want to do it. I appreciate it. Anything else, anybody? Shall we adjourn?
No, I think it was a good meeting. I think we got a lot accomplished, and we set some groundwork. I apologize for that little break in there, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Put a smile on Tim's face anyway.
Yeah, you sure did, didn't you? Well, thanks everybody. Hope you have a happy Easter if you celebrate it, or Passover if you celebrate it. Have a great weekend, and be well. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your family. Hug your kids.
Yep. Same to you guys.
Yep. Same to you. See you guys.
I'll stay in touch
Thanks,
with
everyone.
Stay in touch. Bye-bye.
you. Yep. Bye.